First is, yes, Dan and I agree on an awful lot, and I would be delighted to see the federal budget look like Dan would like it to look by the end of the 10-year budget window. Just a teeny bit was just getting that 1.96% growth, but Medicare, Medicaid, and health insurance subsidies, to the extent that they remain in the baseline, are growing at something like anywhere from 5 to 7%. And we have, if to the extent that Donald Trump is the Republican that's going to deliver, that vision, he also campaigned on not touching any of that. So I choose to look at the world in which we live. And that world also is one in which we have been stubbornly immune to the tax competition that otherwise pervades the world. So I wish we were as susceptible to the tax competition that an origin system might bring here. But we've proven stubbornly. I mean, we haven't touched the tax code materially since 1986. We did change the corporate tax rate when the rest of the world was cutting their corporate tax rates. Those countries, by the way, that do have destination VATs. We did touch the corporate tax rate in 1997. We raised it. So I'm just not as persuaded as Dan that the tax competition is as persuasive at least in D.C. and in the United States, where we have competing pressures that I think Donald Trump exploited to get into the White House budget pressure. So I wish that would be the case. I wish Dan's proposal could be the case. I'm just skeptical.
Well, just real quickly, I think the entire reason why the House has a 20% corporate rate, Trump has a 15% rate, all the other Republican candidates had rates as low as 10%, was because of tax competition. I think the only reason it's being discussed is because we are under this competitive pressure, and I don't want to give up that competitive pressure. I want origin-based systems to discipline governments.
We only have a little bit of time left, and we'd like to open it up to make sure that everybody who has some questions can ask those questions before we keep asking each other questions. If you do have a question, we do have microphones around that are coming, so raise your hand and a microphone will come around. But if you ask a question, please state your name and your affiliation so we know who's asking questions.
And put a question mark at the end of your statement. These guys are more bashful than taxpayers.
We sell that.
Billy.
Thanks a lot. And some of us sort of remember the last time there was a big tax reform movement was Reagan 1 and Reagan 2. But when we did the 86 bill, there was like 4 years of prep work. And the overall discussion was, at a macro level, lower rates, fewer deductions. It was sort of the plan. And with some good leadership from Ross Zukowski and Pat Wood and the president, we got there. Today, the average worker complains about paying high payroll taxes, really doesn't pay a whole lot of income taxes, although they think they do, but on the whole, it's pretty low on a world standard. And other than maybe the gas tax, they really don't have a federal consumption tax at all. Have you gotten any sense that the average worker is eager to pay a 20% consumption tax every time they buy something? Or are we missing something here? I mean, it's going to take a fair amount of time to explain to people why this is such a good thing, that every time they buy something, they're paying a lot more for something.
Well, I guess I'll actually defend Gordon's position here. It would only be a 20% tax on imports, not everything, unless it was turned into a VAT. But then again, currencies are supposed to adjust, and I think in the long run, I agree with Gordon, the pressure would be in that direction. But this brings up a point I didn't raise, the politics of it. Republicans for years have had plans that have had consensus support from everybody in the business community. And now all of a sudden they come up with a plan where every importer is looking, oh my God. Not to mention, if the Democrats decide to demagogue against it and say, oh, this is a 20% tax on consumers, and remember, voters automatically believe anything bad that is said about a new proposal. So I guess politically, I wonder why Republicans put themselves in a position where it's going to be harder to get the consensus to do the things they want to do. I mean, not like it's easy to get my 1.96% growth. Gordon was right about that. So again, we're choosing how to get to a destination most of us want to get to, and we're just comparing what are the obstacles in the way on the different paths.
Yeah, I think that speaks to why we've seen a little bit of the blurring of the lines on how this proposal is being sold. There is some convenient, I think, indication of the sort of populist and protectionist trade rhetoric from the campaign is being conflated with what I describe as a boring base determination. And that is, I think, a way of folks trying to sort of square the peg on that. Tax reform these days, I think, to a lot of folks, doesn't actually poll all that well. We've looked at this before. It's not always, when you get into this stuff, it doesn't necessarily resonate. And so I think that's why, Dan and I, have our work to do and talk about why some of these tax things ultimately will matter, why it's good for the economy, why it's good for growth. And on balance, I think we're bringing there.
Question in the back?
It's Dana Marshall with Transnational Strategy Group. I wonder if I could intersect this economic discussion a little bit with politics. It's not like it's going to be this plan or nothing. It'll be this plan or some other plan. I wonder if the panel could talk a little bit about what alternative plans might be out there to try to accomplish the macro goal that I think this administration wants to do, which is cut the trade deficit. That might be done in ways that either could be better, that is less retaliation, maybe less of a chance of currency appreciation, self-defeating stuff like this, or could be worse, because something's going to happen, presumably. The question is, whether you can put this in a broader context. It's not like this or nothing, but this or what else could be out there.
But first of all, I don't think that we should be designing our tax policies in anticipation of what other sovereign nations may or may not do. If it's in their interest, they'll do it anyway. I don't think that we've sat back and let countries go ahead and lower their rates and do various other things. So I think what we should do is design the best tax policy that we can. Now, as to in my view, right now, that looks like the blueprint. As it works its way through Congress and as folks weigh in, yeah, that's absolutely the case. Right now it's a document. It's not legislative text. There aren't the essential transition rules that will need to be written, I think, to the extent we move to any new tax system. There's a lot of meat that needs to be put on these bones. And along the way, yeah, you could see the destination principle get stripped. You could move to, if you want to preserve territoriality, then you got to move to, things like minimum taxes, camp option C, or other regimes. Those have trade-offs that, sure, it may, mollify the folks that are barking on us now, but then you'll get the same kind of arguments from folks that think they're getting, a different deal under that alternative. So that's what tax reform looks like. We haven't had a serious tax reform effort in a long time, and now we do, and we're going to have to start having these discussions.
The only thing I would add to that is there is another alternative right now. That's the Trump plan, which doesn't have border adjustability. And I'm actually surprised that Trump said something negative about the House plan, because my fear has been that, he'll jump on it because it sounds protectionist, even though I agree with Gordon, at the end of the day, with the currencies, it's probably not protectionist. So the question is, what will Trump do at the end of the day? And if I knew what Trump would do, I'd tell you, but I have no clue.
I think the other thing we have to look at very carefully is that tax reform is hard. Even if everybody's aligned and everything is coming together, it's hard. I worked on the '86 tax bill. It was the number one priority of the Reagan administration. They did put out, their own packages, Treasury 1, Treasury 2. You had Danny Rostenkowski and Bob Packwood working on this, diligently trying to make it happen, and it died multiple times. It died on the House floor, it died in the Senate. There were all kinds of problems with that bill, and that was making it the top priority that everybody agreed had to happen. So everybody's in agreement that we need tax reform, but even though we have all three branches of government, this is still a very heavy lift. This is not going to be easy. And this goes well beyond the border adjustability provision. You still are dealing with individual. I mean, we're always focused on the corporate side, but on the individual side, there's all kinds of problems. And it does make it much more difficult. And so politically, this is a challenge. Even though everything seems to be aligned right now, this is not going to be easy. Last question?
Hi, I've got a cold, so I apologize. I'm Nicole in Wisconsin, Sandler Travis Presenberg. But I have a question with respect to the idea of the currencies manipulation. And when so many deals today are done in dollars, how does that square?
That is a question that will, I say, prospectively have to be addressed. Contracts can be renegotiated when circumstances change. That's one. And two is you can write tax rules that transition. And so this is the case with any number of policy changes where you have a set of facts that existed before the policy change, and you have a set of facts that existed after the fact, and you just have to navigate those facts. And so that contemplates the entities being able to renegotiate their contracts when there's a new set of facts. And two is writing transition rules that are cognizant of those around them.
But keep in mind, not all contracts can be rewritten. If one party gets a windfall gain, they don't want to rewrite the contract with the party that gets a windfall loss. And think about it this way. If the dollar does jump in value, which I agree it will, what does that mean for foreign governments and foreign companies that maybe borrow in dollars but earn in local currency? They're going to suffer big windfall losses. And so the people here representing foreign companies and foreign countries, that's something you have to figure out. That's not just a transition rule, that's a potentially bankrupting event. If the US dollar rises 25% and all of a sudden your debts are much bigger than you thought they were the day before the legislation was signed. Now again, I don't think that necessarily should stop legislation if I agree with the underlying theory of the legislation, figure out how to somehow even things out a bit. But again, why take this risk for a provision that I don't think is necessary to get to the destination Gordon and I both want to get to?
There has been dramatic currency appreciation already. Companies have to manage this kind of risk regardless. This is not the single and only geopolitical event or the only policy development that companies have to manage. There has been something like 20% appreciation of the dollar in I don't know how many months, 3 months, something like that, that companies have also had to manage in terms of their supply and in terms of their risk. So I think that this is something that can also be overstated to a degree.
But another 25%, it's something to think about.
Thank you very much. We're going to go to the next panel, who will give you a lot more detail on company perspectives on this.